Good morning and welcome to the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. Well, I hope all of you are listening today had a great week last week. Business throughout the United States seems to be doing better, and hopefully around the world if you're listening in another country. So we're going to talk about a variety of things today, and I've got two guests that I think you're really going to enjoy the stories they have to share with us. We're going to start off today's show with our thought for the week, where do you stand? Then we'll check in quickly with Dick here at the business and see what the business is at Lone Star Community Radio. And then our special guest today is Ray Bessette. Ray is the co-owner of the Firm U. The Firm U itself is not a typical gym or health facility. They've taken the doctor's office and put it in private personal training studio, performing and assessing comprehensive blood lab tests as well as weight training with anti-inflammatory nutrition education. Ray will share his story on how he and his partner developed their concept to give them an edge in the highly competitive weight loss and workout industries. And then in the expert corner, we have Chris Wehe joining us with Koch Insurance. I'll get it out. Just bear with me. Koch Insurance. He's going to talk to us about a very important topic if you're in business today, and that's commercial insurance. Explain what it really is, and in particular, the need today for cyber insurance. I will close the show today with the Silver Fox tip of the week, finding your place in the marketplace. Remember, at any time during the show, if you have a question or a comment, or even after the show, please email me. My email address here at the station is rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Let me know what you're thinking. And by the way, if you have a question about your own business and just want some quick advice, please send me that email as well. Thought for the week, where do you stand? Where do you stand in your business today? Now, that's a broad question, but the fact is that we need to understand where we stand on our business in many different ways. We need to understand where we stand on the rules and regulations, how we're going to enforce them, how we enforce and regulate the processes that make up the everyday life of our business. Now, some of you may have said, well, where do I stand? That sounds political. Well, I shy away from the political side when I'm dealing with business because to me, they're two separate things. But I definitely understand what happens in the political world, who gets elected, what laws are passed directly or indirectly can affect our business. But what I'm trying to touch on briefly today is let your folks that you do business with, that includes your employees, because you do business with them, they make up your business, your vendors, and your clients or customers know where you stand in business. And what I'm talking about is you need to frame a quick, easy, simple message that conveys to everyone where you stand in your business, how you run your business. I mean, the worst thing in the world is have some policy and employees are not really sure how you enforce it. You know, the old story, someone's late for work every other day and you say, well, look, I'll do better tomorrow, and you really don't do anything about it. Well, that sends a message that communicates to your other employees where you stand. You need to decide, because when you get off of where you stand and become a little irregular or different, it confuses people. It can confuse vendors. If you want delivery done on time every time, convey that. I'm looking for a vendor who can deliver right on time every time versus, well, I want a good old boy, or I want to save a few dollars on deliveries and I will accept a late delivery occasionally. Be sure you know where you stand in your business. Don't be afraid to correct someone, whether it be an employee, a vendor, or even a customer. Of course, approaching the customer possibly a little differently, just as a vendor, just as your employees, but don't be afraid to communicate to them and correct them if they don't understand where you stand. Remember, new directions and opportunities are available to all of us in our business every day. The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses throughout the world come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve their business, and to hear from some of our own local business leaders how they have found success right here in the Montgomery County area. I need to remind you before we go further, remember the Weekly Business Hours on Facebook. We have a page on Facebook, and I ask you to go there and like it. That way, as we post our shows each Wednesday, our podcast, you'll have direct access to them. Well, now's the time of the show when we check in with Dick on the business here at Lone Star. Dick, what's going on with Lone Star this week?
I want to remind your listeners that we're adding 2 new shows this week. They had their inaugural shows last week. On Tuesdays, we're going to have the Hispanic Chamber Connection. And on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're going to have Montgomery County Lifestyle with Nathan Arizotti. So if you're looking to know what's going on around Montgomery County, both those shows are very informative.
Yeah, great business show. The Hispanic Chamber, the Woodlands Conroe Hispanic Chamber, great organization. I'm familiar with it. does great work in a small but growing chamber. So if you're interested in a Chamber of Commerce, I recommend you find one or two, the Conroe Chamber, the Woodlands Chamber. There's lots of opportunities to connect with the Chamber of Commerces here in the Montgomery County area. Well, today I'm very pleased to have, I think, a very special business guest with us, Ray Bessette. Ray is the owner of the firm U, and I already told you a little bit about what they're doing. They've got a unique service process, and I'm going to enjoy talking about it and letting all of us understand a little bit better how Ray and his partner have successfully implemented. Ray, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Rick.
Well, we always start off. Give us a little bit of background, business background, so the audience kind of knows where you're coming from.
Well, it began in high school. I was a former gymnast, and that gave me kind of an edge as far as a physique, and went into the Air Force after school. And in the Air Force, I don't know if you're familiar, but out of all the branches, they have the best gyms around. And I played football for the base team, and we started lifting weights, and that's how I got into weight training. Of course, I already gymnastic equipment there. So from there, getting out of the Air Force after 6 years, I worked for the state government and continued lifting weights. And I got a lot of comments, hey, you got to get into bodybuilding. And so I did my first show in 1985. From that point on, I was hooked. And what we did back then is, we had our anti-inflammatory nutrition, which was if your nutrition needs, if you ate food that did not rot after you ate it, or it didn't rot at all, then it was inflamed. It inflamed your body. The other component was, bodybuilding, weight training. Every bodybuilder weight trained. And the other thing was the hormone component. I was 25 years old back then, so I was rocking and rolling. Anyway, so I worked for state government for about 10 years, and after that, I got into the pharmaceutical business, and that was in Las Vegas, Nevada. From there, I was traveling a lot to Houston, had houses in both places, and I decided to pull up my stakes in Las Vegas, get out of the pharmaceutical business. I was in there for a long time and retired from that and said, what am I going to do? Well, let's go back to our days. I competed on the national level as a bodybuilder at a younger age. And so I decided, what else can I do? Where is there to go? I looked up to become a personal trainer. I had a lot of college credits, and I decided to go that route. And I had to learn the business. So I went and joined some of the big box gyms and became a manager there. And I saw how they ran the business. And, I think I can do this a lot better. The nutrition wasn't as up to par. Their practices it just wasn't what I envisioned in myself. And I went back to my old bodybuilder days. You can't really teach people about bodybuilding because they say, oh, I don't want to look like that. I'm going to be big and really muscular. Well, it's not like that. It takes years and years and years to put on muscle. And also, just as a side note, muscle is what burns fat. Fat burns in the muscle cells. So you don't have to be a Hulk Hogan or a little Hulkster to burn fat. So after that, moving to, again, back to Houston, I went out on my own as an independent personal trainer. I worked at a gym for about 2.5 years that closed down all of a sudden. So I kind of scrambled for a location and I found a location about a quarter mile away. It was a Pilates gym, women's Pilates gym that actually closed down. It was called The Firm. And I'm looking at that, I'm saying, okay, my name or my business name was the Firm U. The Fit Effect. And I'm looking at all those letters, and I got a couple quotes, and that's going to cost me about $8,000 to put a new sign up there. So I looked at that sign again. It said The Firm U, and I said, you know what? I could make a U out of that M. Just put a little red on that M and call it The Firm U. So I looked up thefirmu.com. That was available. I said, okay, we're off and running. So I did the Fit Effect, doing business as The Firm U. The Firm U was born. From that business, or from that perspective, we wouldn't have gym memberships. We would be just personal training one-on-one. And that's when I started going back to my bodybuilding days, and I said, what worked? What is the missing ingredient for most people? Most people are doing very well if they get their nutrition down, they get their exercise down, but what else is missing? Like, I'm 57 years old. If I took my anti-inflammatory nutrition is down packed, my weight training is down packed, and here I am at 57. If I could clone myself at 27, where would I find the better results? At 57 or me at 27? Probably at 27. What's the missing ingredients? It's called hormones. We start losing our hormones after the age of 30. They start plummeting. So I started training a client who was a pharmacist and a biochemist. Her name is Christine Boss. With her, we put our heads together and said, wait a minute, well, I'm the biomechanic, You're the chemist. Let's put it together. Oh my God, the firm you was born. We call it the biofirm system. We took biomechanics, biochemistry, and bioidenticals and put them all together in a business model. All those three components are what made us today.
You know, you've given us kind of a brief rundown in the fitness industry, and maybe some people don't understand it. I mean, you've got, and correct me if I'm wrong, you've got, like you say, the big box fitness, and then you've got individual gyms or fitness centers that are all over the place, but they seem to come and go quite frequently. What other parts are there to the fitness business right now?
Well, we have specialized, like there's bar workout. You have, the other martial art type of places, Pilates specialized places. But a lot of the bigger gyms have that within the facility. You get more individual attention, like in the kind of business that I run, and it's going to cost a little bit more. But we're not sitting back, crossing our fingers, hoping you're not going to show up, paying $10 a month.
Right.
Okay.
So the idea is that the customer out there, you've got a really broad market, if you would, of types of facilities people can choose. One's very inexpensive, typical market. Then the other one where you get a little better quality product,
right.
The price continues to go up. That's kind of an interesting thing that if we step back, and the one thing I've noticed personally about, because I'm into working out a little bit and doing some weight management, is that these types of facilities, always a new, I don't know if call it a fad, but something shows up. You mentioned the martial arts,
Right.
That I'm going to lose weight by losing or control my weight, get stronger. How does a person decide what's best for them if they're looking to connect and improve their health?
That's a great question. I hate to say this, but confusion usually sells. And a lot of times, if there's a diet out there, there's another diet to follow up with. Like in our facility, we do Pilates, we do yoga, we do a lot of stretching, a lot of balance. But we don't name it one thing. We call it the firm. All of those components are all impact in what we do right now. But those other specialty places, they kind of burn out after a while. They're missing some of those components. We start from the inside out. We look at the chemistry of your body first. If your body's not ready to lose fat, you're behind the eight ball already. That's why we do our blood tests. We do blood tests to find out if you're insulin resistant. 90% of the people that come into our studio are insulin or diabetic or pre-diabetic. We find that out from an A1C test that we do, and we do that standard right off the bat. It's an option, and if you're a younger person, more than likely, if you're a body fat of over 30%, more than likely you're going to be insulin resistant. When you have sugar in your blood, insulin resistant means that you have a lot of insulin in your blood. Where there's sugar, or let's go back, where there's smoke, there's fire. Where there's sugar, there's insulin. And physiological fact is that if you have large amounts of insulin in your body, it's physiologically impossible to lose fat. So most people that can do cardio, they're kind of running in a cage like a hamster would inside of a wheel. Okay, they just come spinning their wheels. There's no metabolic process.
Well, it's interesting. I'm a great example of that because when I was in my 20s, I used to run 25, 30 miles a week, and I never really lost any weight. So the proof's in the pudding.
Right.
Well, Ray, we're going to take a little break here. And ladies and gentlemen, we're going to come back and talk to Ray a little bit more about this business and how this service process that he and his partner have put together is managed and how it developed and why it may be the right place for you. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Did you know your favorite show on Lone Star Community Radio are on social media? Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, you name it, they're on it. Check out where they are online on irlonestar.com/shows and see which of your favorite hosts are online. Make sure to follow them and see what is in store for the next broadcast. Follow Lone Star Community Radio on Twitter at irlonestar or Facebook with facebook.com/irlonestar.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and your host of the Weekly Business Hour, and welcome you back to our second segment today. We're in the process of talking with Ray Bessette. Ray is the co-owner of the firm You. Before we continue that conversation, I want to remind you that you and your company can sponsor the Weekly Business Hour. If you have an interest in sponsoring the show and communicating your message to our business community, then please email me at rick@irlonestar.com. Well, Ray, we were talking, we went to the break about some of the physiology of the way the body works and the insulin factor, which I agreed with you because of personal experience of the cardio effect and so on and so forth. But, one of the things we sort of touched on in the first segment, I want to kind of go back to it, people are always interested when their business, they've got competition. A lot of times they don't understand the competition. I don't think you have to live and breathe it. I think that's the wrong thing to do. But you have to build a business that's competitive. And what do you do in your business really to stand out? In other words, out there, I'm looking for an opportunity to be involved and improve my health because, as you mentioned prior to the show, you're in the health business. Uh, why do I see you? How do you come on my radar, and why would I be interested in talking to you initially?
Well, a lot of our business come from physicians themselves. We have a lot of people that come to our gym and says our doctors, told us to exercise more and watch what we eat. Well, that's a recipe for failure. Exercise, usually people will equate exercise to walking on the treadmill and cutting their calories. On our end, our business model is to actually increase your calories, reduce your refined sugars and carbohydrates. But incidentally, carbohydrates is just a long word for sugar. Sugar is the only macronutrient. Well, it's not even a macronutrient. It's the only food substance, we'll call it, that actually can get you fat. Now, protein and fat can get you fat. Here's an example. How can fat get you fat? It's already fat. Can't turn to fat, right? Okay. So anyway, we based upon again, we go with a blood test, and our blood tests are much different than your insurance or doctor's blood tests. We actually look for things rather than discovering a disease. We prevent diseases. We look at things like I mentioned before, A1C, which is a measurement of glucose or blood sugar over a 3-month period. We also look at your thyroid, your cortisol, your testosterone, your free testosterone, which is the measurement, which is the active testosterone. Guys over 40, if you don't know your testosterone numbers, you're missing out on life. And same with women. We have women that come into our studio and they said, well, my doctor said, I had a hysterectomy, I lost my ovaries. They have nothing. It's equal to a male castration, and they're not producing any hormones. And it's no wonder they don't feel good. They're depressed. And then a doctor, their protocol usually is to give them an antidepressant, which gets them heavier. So they get heavier and get more depressed. And then finally they come to see us, and we see the story quite often. And so we go ahead and do their blood test, get them on bioidentical hormones. Bioidentical meaning identical to the hormones that you produce. And another thing, incidentally, is that we lose hormones in the aging process. It's something that you don't do for a short period of time. It's something you have to do forever. I get often asked, how long do I have to be on hormones? And I usually say, how long do you want to feel good? So it's one of those. What are the benefits? Well, cardiovascular protection, libido. If you're tired, you're going to be much more active. I mean, I'm 57 and I've been on hormone replacement for about 12 years now. And I get up at 3 o'clock every day. I'm at the gym, my gym at 3:30, and I work till 8 o'clock at night, nonstop. So I may be a good example of what you can do or the energy that you have. Plus, I have muscle mass. As I mentioned earlier, fat burns in the muscle. So the more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn at rest. And that's another niche that we have. And I didn't say gimmick or fad. Our niche is to keep, when people lose weight, they look at the scale. We have a bioimpedance scale where you step on it barefooted. It measures the muscle in your body. It also measures the fat. It also measures your water in pounds. So if somebody comes up to me and says, hey, I lost 20 pounds in the last 6 weeks. I say, oh yeah, really? So what did you lose? Was it muscle? Was it fat? Or was it water? Because I got to tell you, we're made out of those 3 ingredients. It's got to be one of those. And 90% of the time, it's water. I get them on my bioimpedance scale. I see that their water percentage in their body is only 31%. It should be 50 or above. So I know they're on some kind of a diet that's restricting water from their body. So when they get on that scale, looking at that number, all they're seeing is, oh my God, I lost 10 pounds. Well, guess what? In that process, you're going to lose muscle. Remember I mentioned earlier, when you lose muscle, you lose your effectiveness to burn fat at rest. The purpose of exercise, and people out there, this is so important. If you don't get anything out of anything I say today, remember this. The purpose of exercise is not how many calories you burn in a session or in an hour. It's just to stimulate your muscles to burn calories when you're resting. Right now, I'm burning a lot of calories just sitting here, and that's because of the workout I did yesterday. I trained legs yesterday. My legs are starting to get sore. I can start to feel them. And in fact, when I stand back up, I'm going to feel really sore. But I know that my body is already generating or regenerating or metabolizing the catabolic process of breaking down that muscle and rebuilding it. That burns calories at rest. So you're actually burning calories for 1 hour workout. You're burning calories 24/7 for the next 72 hours. Now you do that 3 times a week. That's about 168 hours. Guess how many hours are in a week? 168 hours. Okay, so that's why our competition is education, educating people to understand that you just don't go on a treadmill and then actually go into a gym. When you walk into a gym, the normal gym, what do you see? The first thing you see are overabundance of treadmills because your doctor said to get on that treadmill and or he said or she said exercise. Well, guess what? If you get on a treadmill, push a button, you walk, it's easy. There's no instructions. But then again, there's no results. Everybody in the cardio equipment have one thing in common. They don't change.
Well, and that's interesting to me. And as you say, your competition really is educating people, and it sounds like build a balance between all these things, which makes sense when you talk about nature and you talk about the human being. But like every business, you have a challenge or two every day in the business side of what you do. Share with us what your biggest challenge is in your business day to day and how you solve or meet that challenge.
Again, it goes back to the trying to sell. Well, my biggest challenge is the media, TV. I mean, you look at The Biggest Loser and you see these trainers yelling at people, and these people that are morbidly obese trying to turn over a tractor tire. What kind of exercise is that? That to me is when people walk in the door, that's what they're thinking. They're thinking he's going to yell at me. He's going to ask me what I ate. He's going to cut away my booze. He's going to do this and that. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to ask you to take pictures of your food. Then we're going to discuss it. We're going to discuss it as adults and say, you know what? I'm not your parent. I'm not going to say you can't have that because you're at a loss. What I'd much rather do is educate you on protein. Go ahead, eat as much as you can. It can't turn to fat. It's physiologically impossible. Oh, fats? Yeah, we need fats. As a matter of fact, our food is lacking of oxygen in fats. It's called omega-3. We lose our omega-3. Well, let's correlate cancer. Cancer can't live with its oxygen. What's really abundant nowadays? Cancer. Is there a relationship? I think so. So we supplement with omega-3 supplements. Just another example. The other thing that we do at my facility is we have pharmaceutical grade supplements. And through our blood test, we either recommend a RX or a prescription, or we can get you back in the swing of things with some of our supplements. And again, they're pharmaceutical or medical grade.
You mentioned that at the beginning, as you gave your business background, you've got this one location with the hybrid sign, right? Mm-hmm. Which is a wonderful business story, in my opinion. What does the future hold for you and the firm you?
Well, we're it's taken us a long time to get what we are. My partner and I, Christine Boss, have done a lot of research. We research like doctors do through the medical journals, and we apply the science to everyday use for the average person to come in and understand why I'm doing this. Not so much yelling at you, telling you to move on. Our motivation is education. What a great concept! Oh my God, I'm doing this because I understand what I'm doing, and it'll last you forever. We look at it when you come to our facility to lose whatever your fitness goals are. We have people try to gain muscles. We actually have a lot of competitors that come in, physique competitors, and we treat our physique competitors just like a regular person that comes in, because we don't make them into bodybuilders. Of course, if they want to, we could, but we use the same principles. The reason why we use the same principles is because they work. Bottom line, they work. But to see the future, well, I think we've got our business model nailed down. Now, the expansion part of that, well, it's kind of hard to replace the two people that created what we do. So we're going to our younger generation and educating them to take our place one day. Yeah.
Well, you've got a great business story, Ray, and I can't thank you enough for taking the time to come and join us in the studio today. If people are interested in learning more about the business side or what you have to offer in health, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
My email address is ray@thefirmu, that's THEFIRM, the letter U.com. Or just get on our website. Our website's full of information. We also have a Facebook page, The Firm U, and we do a lot of videos, short videos. that's actually going to probably put us out of business one day because they're so informative. But that's probably the best way.
Well, again, thank you so much for coming and joining us and informing us, not just about business, but ladies and gentlemen, I hope you picked up some tips for your health, because your health is important, very important to the success of your business. Well, we're going to go to the bottom of the hour break, and when we come back, I hope you'll stay with us, because we've got another guest, expert corner, Chris Wehe with Koch Insurance will be with us, Koch Insurance, spelled Koch, will be with us and talk about commercial insurance and the things you need to understand about insurance for your business. Thank you.
We're starting to film our talk shows and putting them on YouTube. Your favorite Lone Star Community Radio show can be seen on YouTube under our Lone Star Community Radio channel and on City of Conroe's Our City TV channel on Suddenlink Channel 12. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see the most recently released videos and find more information online at irlonestar.com/TV.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. I want to thank you again for joining us today, and we're at the point in the show we call the Expert Corner. But before we get to that, I want to remind you again that if you have a question during the show or even after the show or a comment about the show, or even a question about your own business that you'd like me to comment as a business advisor mentor, what I do on a regular basis, please send it to Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Well, I'm so happy today to have Chris Wehe, there, I got it, Chris, from Koch Insurance Group with us to talk about commercial insurance. It's an important topic if you're in business. I think a lot of times the two things, Chris, I've seen is people either in business don't pay attention at all, or on the other hand, they really don't quite understand what the insurance actually covers until they have a claim. So it's the education process, and having a good an agent to explain it is so critical.
Yes, it is. Being able to, a lot of business owners don't pay attention to it because they're focused on their business versus the insurance, and hopefully they'll never use the insurance. But it needs to be there to protect the business, protect the family of the business, because it can affect the income.
Yeah, I think the education thing though, and I don't think it's to me, commercial insurance is take an hour or two total to begin to understand your policies, and then any changes you pick up on an annual basis. I've always been blessed to have agents when I had a business that would take the time, and I was always curious what's covered and what's not, because I didn't want to have that loss in that unique situation, or even set up a process in the business that really was setting me up for a potential insurance claim that wasn't covered. And that education made a huge difference to me in my career.
Yeah, that's correct. A lot of what I do is just explaining why you need the insurance and what it's for. And so if something does crop up, they are covered, and I'm able to kind of walk them through the process, and I get a lot of, oh, that's what that's for, and it helps.
Well, let's take a few minutes now, if you will, and just kind of give us a basic understanding or what commercial insurance is and what it's supposed to do.
Certainly. Basically what most businesses get and need to have is a commercial general liability policy, and that covers general claims against the business, medical expenses if somebody's hurt during your course of business at a location or even on your property. And a lot of businesses, tenants, or landlords and contractors require a business to have commercial liability policy. It's usually the first policy a business gets when they're starting out, but it's vital to the business. It's going to cover obviously general type of claims. Under that, then you're also looking at a professional liability or an errors and omissions policy, which if you provide a service, if you provide advice. As an insurance agent, I have errors and omissions insurance to cover any possibility of being sued over my advice, my ability, my certifications as an insurance agent. Or wedding planners could get it or need it. Financial advisors have it. Obviously, lawyers and doctors have malpractice. But anybody that provides a service could have a claim against their business.
That's interesting. Well, and one of the things that in commercial insurance too that it always kind of stops people, and I've seen this time and again, even with some clients, and when I'm doing mentoring and advising as a Silver Fox advisor, people look at the price, and they focus on the price, and well, it's part of the component. It's a component, let's say, in the formula, but what's the coverage? Not only the description, but the dollar amount of coverage. How do you explain to someone that your business is worth X? and you're buying insurance for Y, and there's sort of a mismatch.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do, and especially general liability, has to do with three things. It's the type of business. Obviously, if you are a contractor versus an insurance agent, your liability is going to be greater. So they take that into account when they come up with your premiums and previous losses for the insurance company. That all plays into fact. And then your gross annual sales or revenue is a factor because they're insuring the whole business. Whether you do 100,000 or 10 million, the insurance carrier isn't covering the whole business. So they need to know that. And then the other one is your payroll or labor expense. And for insurance purposes, it really doesn't matter if it's a W-2 or 1099 person. Legality and liability are two totally different things. And we get a lot where I don't have any employees, but are you paying someone to do work for you? For insurance purposes, that's a number that the carrier needs to know to come up with the correct premium. And then get the right coverages for your type of business. If you have a property or if you don't, what type of, if a contractor or a landlord or something is requiring a specific type of insurance, then that goes into play. But those three things are usually the biggest factor into determining your insurance premium.
You know, let's go back for a minute because you brought something up that I think a lot of people might miss, and it's becoming a bigger and bigger situation in the business world. You mentioned about having employees versus contractors, 1099. Today's world, I see more and more every day of people outsourcing work and using the 1099. I'm not talking about outsourcing to a company, like to get some printing done or something. I'm talking about outsourcing actual pieces of your business. Somebody puts something together, but you have an individual contract with them and you give them a 1099 at the end of the year. You need to have insurance for those people.
That's correct. Yeah, even it doesn't, again, liability versus legality are two different things. I understand why people do it or businesses do it. We're not, obviously I'm not a tax person, so I wouldn't, comment on that. But whether you're 1099ing them or W-2ing that person, it's important that they're covered because you're responsible for them. You're paying them to do a job for you, and if something were to happen, you would be liable for them. Also, there are companies that hire other companies to work for them. Those are actual subcontractors. For somebody that you pay, it may not be a subcontractor. Subcontractor is an actual company. Now, the carrier needs to know that too, but there is a distinction between a true subcontractor and a employee that you're 1099.
Right. And I think people need to really get educated on that because I'm a big believer in virtual businesses. In a lot of industries out there, there's a place for small virtual businesses, meaning that you don't have really any employees except maybe an administrative. And even today, there's a lot of opportunities on the internet to get administrative help without having an employee. So all of a sudden, I've got a business and I say, well, I don't have any employees, but I've got 5-10 people working for me week in and week out. And what they might do or not do may bring liability back to me and my business.
That's correct. And the biggest time we get those type of questions is general liability and the workers' compensation. Texas is one of the few states that don't require workers' compensation for a business. Doesn't mean that you're not liable for your employees. It just means the state of Texas doesn't require you to have it, unless there are certain circumstances where you have to. But the 1099 and W-2 is the same example as the general liability. You don't have to, whether you 1099 them or W-2 them, that you're still liable for them for work-related injuries. And having workers' compensation insurance does limit the amount of damages that a company is liable for versus not having it, which is unlimited.
Right. There's a big advantage to having workers' comp, but like you say, in Texas, we're not required, and some businesses do make that choice, and I've had clients make that choice. In fact, in business, one time I made that choice based on a lot of factors to go without. So let's talk a little bit. There was a particular kind of insurance, and you and I were having a conversation recently, and it really is a big topic, maybe not as big as it should be, particularly for the smaller business. I mean, let's face it, the Fortune 500, large companies, if you will, they get it. But cyber crime, cyber insurance, small companies, individuals, we hear about a lot of individuals getting hacked, their bank account, or somebody borrowing money with their identification. Business, small, medium-sized businesses, talk about cyber insurance, if you would.
Well, cyber insurance or data breach insurance will help you recover from a hack, a data breach, anything like that could ruin your business. It can help you with income, replacing income while you're getting your business back up or rebuilding your websites or internet. It also can cover the cost of paying for credit monitoring, getting your reputation back. That's usually a big loss that people don't, that goodwill loss or reputational loss that you get if people find out you've been hacked. Unfortunately, as the bigger companies get better at securing their networks, the hackers, the people that are going after, is moving downstream. And the biggest increase in data breaches are from employees from 10 to 250. If you have any customer information, it doesn't even have to be credit cards. I mean, a lot of contractors get customer information, name, address, birth dates. That is hackable material that could be sold on the black market to people that are looking for identities to steal.
Let's talk a little bit more about that particular circumstance, and even broaden it a little bit. If I have those 1099 employees, I'm typically going to have a personal Social Security number because I'm going to issue the 1099. What is, generally speaking, and I know you're not an attorney or hold yourself out as one, but from an insurance side, what's my exposure if somebody hacks in and say my employees or the 1099 or customers and get that personal information that can be sold and used to, commit crimes, if you will, open bank accounts, do things, ruin my reputation, at least my credit. What does the insurance cover in that situation?
It would cover reimbursement for lawsuits. If you get a pain and suffering lawsuit from somebody whose information was stolen from your network and your servers. It could cover paying for creditor monitoring system. It could also reimburse for business income. If you have to shut your business down or you take such a financial hit because of your reputation or whatever, it can reimburse you for that for an X period of time. The pain and suffering liability, the lawsuits that you're probably going to get are usually the biggest risk that a business can incur. And if you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's enough to bankrupt a small business.
Well, there's no doubt about it. Even one or two just taking you out of your business and having to deal with it. It's an amazing situation that people need to know about. Well, if you were going to give some general advice in the minute or two we have left today to people, business people, who really, in my case, as I mentioned earlier, either they don't pay any attention or they pay some attention. That's been what I've found. Rarely do I find someone who's really up to speed on what their insurance covers and what it doesn't. What general advice would you give those people?
Well, look to see what kind of business you are. The insurance agents, the wedding planners, professional liability or errors and omissions is a lot more important than general liability. You don't have a lot of general liability exposure, but you do have lots of professional exposure. Being able to determine what's going to be best for you. If you are renting a place and spend a lot of money making that place suitable to your line of business, that's a cost you incur. It's called a betterment, improvement and betterment of a facility. Even though you don't own it, you may be able to, you've spent quite a bit of money, and if something were to happen to that building, you want to be able to reimbursement for that. And a lot of businesses kind of overlook that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's so much to insurance. If you're listening today and you own a business or you're thinking about going into business, insurance, to me, you need to find a good broker, one who's up to speed about what the insurance covers. And again, take a little bit of time. Use your insurance broker as an advisor, not just someone who sells you something, but as an advisor, and look at your particular business, because every business is different about the types of coverages, because it's that little area that's not covered, I have found, is the one that a lot of times comes back and bites you. Well, Chris, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day. I know you're a very busy insurance person, insurance broker. Tell us, if people want to talk to you about maybe an issue or two or talk to you about insurance, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
You can contact us by phone. It's 281-417-3000, or my email is cwehe@kochig.com, Koch Insurance Group.
Well, thank you again. And Koch Insurance Group, they're a good outfit. And again, if you just want to ask a question or something, reach out to Chris. He's a great source of information, and I have found him always willing to help people. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our final break for the day. I hope you'll stay with us. I'm going to come back and offer my Silver Fox tip of the week, finding your place in the marketplace. Be right back.
Thanks for checking out this production of Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's community radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star Community Radio, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, TV, media, please call 936-647 5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production produced by the show host and Dick Schissler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schissler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host of the Weekly Business Hour. We're to our final segment today, and this is typically where I give my Silver Fox tip of the week. But before I do that, I want to remind you, if you want to find out anything about what's going on in the community of Montgomery County, go to the website for the station. It's www.irlonestar.com. Lots of information there, not just about the shows and the music, but also things that are going on around the community. And in particular, a great deal of information about the great nonprofits that support us here in Montgomery County. Silver Fox tip of the week, finding your place in the marketplace. Well, there's a question to start with. Do you know where you are in your marketplace? A lot of conversation, a lot has been written in marketing books, sales books, and so on and so forth over the years. I've read a lot. I've been in a class in college way back when, talking about where to position your business in the marketplace. And unfortunately, I still find today many businesses, particularly small businesses, in doing my consulting work as bestconsult.com, is I find that people have never really thoroughly thought through where they are positioned in the market, or more particularly where they want or should position themselves. They haven't taken the time, even if they've started the business 20 years ago. A lot of times these businesses are retail businesses, Main Street businesses, and they just open the store, so to speak. They put a lot of effort into it. They take risk, they borrow money, and they build a business, and they're making a living, and they're happy with that. And I contend there's a lot more to a business if you have the desire. And I think part of what you have to do before you start the business, or if you've already started it and been in it, you need to step back and evaluate or reevaluate what your position is in the marketplace. And what I'm talking about is that you find out what it is about your business that can stand out or does stand out in the marketplace, in the competitive marketplace. Why do people want to do business with you? We talked about it earlier in this program with Ray Bessette and what he does with his business, providing a service process, combining several different industries, and putting together, if you will, a package based on education and other factors. You have to do the same thing, whether you're selling widgets or you're selling dresses or you're selling computers or you're selling plumbing services. Where do you fit in that marketplace? And again, I encourage you to do this if you've never done it. And I encourage you, if you haven't reevaluated it in the past 2 or 3 years, to do so. It's not something you have to worry about. It's not a week-to-week thing, a month-to-month thing. It's something you should do every year or two, maybe 3 years, and definitely something you should do before you start a business. And what I'm talking about, and this is one of the best expressions or phrases that I've ever seen that kind of sums it up, talking about determining what your unique selling proposition is. That's one of the phrases that's used commonly today to determine where you fit in the marketplace, or where you should fit, or where you want to fit. I need to make that clear. It's you decide where you want to fit or should fit. It's very important that when you make a determination of where your place is in the market, of where you want to be, that it makes sense, that you can back it up with numbers and information that support that, hey, if I go in at the low price competitor in the market and I run a very efficient, cost-effective business model, and I can sell at that lowest price and still make a reasonable gross margin and profit, I have to determine that before I say, okay, I'm going to go in the low price. Because a lot of times people, I see them open businesses, again, particularly Main Street businesses, and they immediately run to, what should I price this at? What should my prices be? Well, the guy across town, the guy down the street, the guy online, it's just, they're selling it for this. And I've got to be at that price or even cheaper. You know, they spend too much time, almost a fixation on pricing. Pricing's part of the formula, but a lot more goes into this discussion. Determining what your unique selling proposition is really the most important. And let me give you a little story about that I take into, and I've used this actually with a client. They couldn't figure out what their unique selling proposition is. And it stumps you. It stumped me in the beginning. Some people what do you mean? Where do I fit? I fit because I work hard. I do a good job. I've got good people, so on and so forth, and we do it every day. I said, let's go outside your business. Let's stand in the front and let's look and let's think about what's inside, and that I'm a potential customer or client for your business. What is it about your business, whether it's the outside, the storefront, or what's in your business or what you offer, that's going to want me to do business with you? That's what you've got to determine. And you've got to find a way to pick up some information, some quote unquote market research. I'm not talking about a full bang up study, but there is information, particularly with the internet, that you can find out about your industry, and you can properly position your place in the marketplace. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I deeply appreciate you joining us today. I appreciate our guest, Ray, and coming in today and talking about his business, as well as Chris talking about insurance. And again, remember, this business is on a podcast, which will be published on Wednesday. I encourage you, if you didn't hear all of the program or you want to re-listen, that you go to irlonestar.com, click on the Weekly Business Hour and pick up, or go to Facebook where you'll find it published as well. And I ask you, please put a note on your calendar to join us again next Monday right here on irlonestar.com at 11, when Stacy Johnson will join us as our business owner guest. And in our expert corner, a good friend, John Martin of Thrivent Financial. And finally, remember, you too can sponsor the show. Just contact me at rick@irlonestar.com for details. Thank you for joining us. Remember to stay in touch with what's happening in Montgomery County right here on Lone Star Community Radio. Until next week, stay engaged this week and keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thank you.
Swerving all over the place. You got me wanting and needing. You're the reason for my speeding, and you know you can't blame it on the brakes. Blame it on those baby blues for looking like you do. Blame it on your slow dancing county road romance, and blame it on the moonlight shining bright. Tailgate kind of summer night. Blame it on you for loving me so true, girl. You can blame it on your smile, your whisper, and your touch. Blame it on your lips for kissing me so much. Blame it on those baby blues, but you can't blame me for loving you. Hey, when the sun goes down on this sleepy little town, you turn my world into a country love song. Take a good long look in the mirror, now it couldn't be any clearer, and you'll see what turns my radio on. Blame it on those baby blues for looking like you do. Blame it on your slow dancing county road romance, and blame it on the moonlight shining bright. Tailgate kind of summer night. Blame it on you for loving me so true, girl. You can blame it on your smile, your whisper, and your touch. Blame it on your lips for kissing me so much. Blame it on those baby blues, but you can't blame me for loving love. Well, you love me, can't get enough of me. Rain or shine all the time with all your heart and soul. I'll be looking in your eyes by the time the sunrise comes, shining through your bedroom window. Slow dancing county road romance, and blame it on the moonlight shining bright. Tailgate kind of summer night. Blame it on you for loving me so true, girl. You can blame it on your smile, your whisper, and your touch. Blame it on your lips for kissing me so much. Blame it on those baby blues, but you can't blame me for loving you. No, no matter what you do, girl, you can't blame me for loving you.
Heaven's Army of Resources and Recreation Center is a 501c3 nonprofit organization featuring a 10,000 square foot building located at 19325 FM 1485.
Thanks for checking out this production on Lone Star Community Radio, Montgomery County's radio station. For more information on this show and other shows on Lone Star, check us out online at irlonestar.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a program on Lone Star Community Radio and reaching the local audience of Montgomery County on FM, internet, and TV media, please call 936-647-5747 or contact us online at irlonestar.com. This recording is a Lone Star Community Radio production, produced by the show host and Dick Schissler of Lone Star Community Radio. Interested in volunteering as a music DJ or starting your own talk show? Contact Dick Schissler at dick@irlonestar.com or by phone at 936-647-5747.